Bayou, and particularly as we reconstruct Eleanor Tinsley Park and put the Nau pavilion and the Sunlight Amphitheater bowl in there. You've been a wonderful supporter of activities in Houston, and frankly, between the Nau Center that's going in to help us reclaim some of the history of this region and the pavilion. We very seldom name things for living people here in Houston. I'll tell you that it is a rare event, but we appreciate your generosity to the citizens of Houston.
Well, it's my pleasure. I'm glad you're naming it while I'm still alive. As I was approached by creating this bowl, this permanent facility, I was reminded of one back in the late 80s when we created the first citywide July 4th. Every year we had to go back in and put in electricity and other services. It became quite an expensive endeavor, and we talked about creating some sense of a permanent pavilion and staging, and that's what really caught my attention here, because now there will be a permanent infrastructure, and it'll take the Eleanor Tinsley Park, which is a real jewel for the city to begin with, and it'll make it a permanent facility for the people and the citizens. And we're just very, very happy to have been part of this since the late 80s and now making it permanent. So thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember from the queue, I want to add that please, I know Silver Eagle has a great record of safety in your vehicles, but I appreciate that you have signed on to our No Texting While Driving campaign. We're going to proudly feature you on our website. Chair recognizes Councilmember Costello.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Nau, thank you very much for your generosity to the city. You are a classic example of what corporate sponsorship does to a local community, and we really do appreciate your generosity. I also want to just remind my colleagues that when we did the Long Range Management Task Force study effort a year and a half ago, one of the recommendations was to increase sponsorships as a way of increasing revenues to the city, and this is a classic example of one of those activities. So, Mr. Nau, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Nau, thank you again for everything that you do for the city, especially my district, because we're going to benefit tremendously, the citizens and the residents in District I, from your charitable efforts. And thank you for wanting to preserve and advocate for Houston's history and the region's history. I think it's so important that our children, and especially young kids growing up, have an appreciation and understanding of our history, the rich history that we have in this region. So I'm really excited that the Nau Center is coming along, and I understand you went up to Gettysburg to take a look at a couple different facilities, and Councilmember Christie and I were just talking about the Civil War novels we're both reading right now, so we're going to trade after we're done, and I was talking about your collection that I saw at the museum at one time, and it was fantastic. But again, it's good to be a student of history. That way we learn from our mistakes and we can move forward and hopefully improve government in this city, in this region. So thank you for all that you do for our community.
Thank you, and if I could, so the council knows, the Nau Center, one of the three legs of the focus and the vision for this is education, the 4th and the 7th graders. And I was at the Lincoln Presidential Library in Springfield, Illinois 2 weeks ago, and learned a lot. Sometimes you learn what you need, sometimes you learn from other people's mistakes. And we are really focused on this issue of educating and exposing the 4th and 7th graders. So it's not just about adults. This one's really going to be about children.
Councilmember Pennington.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to add my thanks on behalf of the city for what you've done. It's forward thinking. Actually, you're using your marketing skills. You saw how important that venue is to the city, and thank you for recognizing that and meeting that need. And now if we can just figure out a way to put the city land that's across Allen Parkway to work, that could be a nice adjunct for parking or other things, rather than selling it for another apartment unit. I think that would be a great use for that property. But thank you for what you do, and I also enjoyed our conversation this morning, and hopefully we can put it together with the Post International Group to have an interactive center out in the new airport hotel that might be complementary to what you have downtown, and perhaps we might even start a trend so all of the hotels could have something like that. That would be a real amazing thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Councilor Cohen.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, John. Thanks so much for everything you've done, and not only in Houston, but for Texas. Your passion for the history of Texas is well known throughout this country. And I particularly want to thank you for your willingness as well to allow so many community organizations to use your facility, which happens to be in District C, for a lot of good works. And if you go in there and you can see John's collection of Texas history, it's fantastic. And we are so grateful. And as the mayor said, we typically don't name things for living people, so I would just like to add my sincere hope for a long and healthy life. So thanks. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bobby says
Councilmember Noriega.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. John, it's good to see you. Thank you for being here, not only for the contribution, but being able to come over and have a conversation with us about it. And I want to thank you for everything you do, all the coastal wetlands work that you've done, as well as the Texas history collections that Councilmember Cohen has mentioned, and the extraordinary effort to go to places like Gettysburg. I was there a few years ago when my husband was at War College and had a chance to see what they've done up there. It's quite amazing. And at my house, we make choices about what kind of products we buy based on who contributes in the community. I'm very careful to pay attention to that. And we drink Bud Light, so.
Thank you.
I also want to tell you, though, that I appreciate your group's willingness to negotiate for non-alcohol related events. I think it's important that we have the ability to walk that down a little bit. That may be my starchy Presbyterian background, but I just feel better about that option. And I thank the mayor and Andy Aiken and the group for that, as well as yours. Finally, what I'd like to say is I think this is a terrific way to honor a terrific woman. Eleanor Tinsley was one of my personal mentors, as well as that of my husband. And every time we have an event there, I think of her. And I think of the view, and I think of the amazing things she did for the city. And so, at some level, that's a way to honor her as well. And I think it's really a terrific, terrific, amazing, honorable thing to do. So thank you.
My pleasure.
Councilmember Davis.
Thank you, ma'am. Sal, thank you so much for all the things that you do throughout the city. I know you're big with foundations and nonprofits throughout the city of Houston. And what Councilman Cassell said earlier, you know, we need people like you to make things work. So I just want to continue to echo the sentiments of the council and say thank you. And we're proud to have you as a Houston.
Thank you. I'm proud to be here.
Again, John, thank you for taking time to come down, and thank you for all you do. Yeah, appreciate it.
Mayor, thank you.